Good evening, dudes. Figured I'd do a quick video for you guys for being just good to me. It's as simple as that. Just on painting the yellow. Now, I'm only going to work on this bit, and then I'm going to see what questions you've all got, and then I'll answer the questions by doing the rest of it. The rest of the yellow, obviously. I mean, ask whatever questions you want about the rest of it. I mean, at the moment it's just pretty much at a base coat stage. Some bits have got a wash on it, but I might repaint those out. The other reason I don't want to do all the yellow right now, excuse me, is because I really want to work on all these other colours that are near it and do the yellow last, really. Because that's like sensible, given that yellow is a high risk kind of colour. But yeah, so I'll work on this and see what you guys think. Now, you might notice it's already yellow. Well, that's because I actually sprayed these models yellow. You can kind of see it there in the rim of the base where my fingers have worn it away. So yeah, I won't necessarily be showing you how to base coat it, but to be honest, if you're having trouble with base coating, I suggest you give me a nudge for some lessons, because that's like a pretty fundamental way of doing things. But I'm pretty sure almost all you guys have had a lesson with me, so you should know those things. So yeah, here we go. So, keeping things simple. Dry bark, Avalon Sunset. As you know, I'm about simplicity and straightforwardness for everything in painting. Complexity doesn't exist without simplicity. So understanding that idea first, it's pretty good understanding to have to develop. Right, so watch how simple I keep all my movements. Yeah, simple enough. Here, I'm just going to go down like that. Doing these sides here, why not? Wouldn't normally, because actually I'd like to do all the red first. But the darker sides will help frame the piece I'm doing. How do you see that's quite an effective yellow? Now, one thing I'm noticing here between real life and the camera, the yellow on camera, probably the yellow you're seeing is a lot richer, a lot more yellow than the yellow that's in front of me here. You know, the yellow of Avalon Sunsets, very much a mustardy type colour. Yeah, so if you're ever comparing your work to mine in real life, if you're copying these colours in this colour scheme, just bear that in mind. Here we go. So add a little bit more, going darker. Line there. A line up there. A line down there. Now these lines, this line and these lines are very different. Notice this one kind of has a blend in it. That's about the pressure of the brush and the way I load the brush, as well as the consistency of the brush. How high up I load the brush. Yeah, so there's more than meets the eye. These ones are actually kind of the same thing as well. It's certainly a pressure thing. It's not just a case of hold your brush at this angle and go left to right. There's a pressure to it. It's obviously quite hard to explain in a video. It's very much a feel thing. So one that I can teach you face to face. There we go. And down here a bit. There we go. Alright. So now we get rid of these. Take a bit of this. Now we're just going to kind of neaten up any of these areas where, whoops, not with so much paint like that though. Actually just taking it off now. Yeah, now I'm just neatening up any areas where these blends, where these shades are just a little bit too large. Yeah. Now I don't make them too large on purpose. I always try and reduce the amount of work I have to do, but you know, at the end of the day, sometimes it happens. You know, and like I said earlier on, yellow is a high risk colour, and business goes down essentially. But the big thing to realise is I'm not farting around with any brushstroke. I'm not farting around with any brushstroke. Every brushstroke does its job, and pretty much its job only, where possible. And that's kind of like an aspirational state of affairs. It's not always possible sometimes. Sometimes you're a bit glitchy for whatever reason. It might be interference from, you know, parts of the model in the way. You might be feeling a bit under the weather or whatever else. I'm just going to blend this one out a little bit. It was too liney, that one. It needed to be softer at the top. He says touching the model in a way he didn't really want to. You see how I took that mistake and kind of fed it up and down and along there? So now what I'm doing with this stage, you see how see-through it is on the palette here. Let's move the light so you can see a bit better. Yeah, you see how see-through it is on the palette there. I'm using this to kind of remove any of the the mustard type colour of the Avalon Sunset, and basically make things appear a proper yellow. Let's just soften some of these shadows a little bit. Some might call this a glaze. I don't know, is it too strong for a glaze? Other than consistency, what's the difference between a base coat and a glaze? Sensible questions to ask, I would say. So, there we go. That's pretty much done now. We're like, let's just get that to focus. There we go. Pretty much done now. Let's add some highlight. Now I can never remember if I go for bleach bone or white as the highlight, and I've done a few of these now. But for this, I'm going for white. It all kind of end up. If I add a bit more white of this, it'll pretty much go bleach bone anyway. Just adjust all this so you can see the colour a bit better. Now when it comes to the highlight stages, I definitely like to do the edges first. Helps box everything in. Slight sideways stroke on this one. Nice sharp angle that, so it's going to allow me that liberty. Less of a sharp angle on this one here. Then again, I don't mind that much. Side strokes can bring in elements that aren't necessarily always productive. There we go. Yeah. Now I'm going to soften up these two lines on here, because they're actually quite sharp lines. They might appear subtle on the camera, or a subtle colour shift. I had to paint them quite sharp. I want them to soften down a bit now. That's why I've reduced the consistency. But with this reduced consistency, this here would never be a sharp kind of highlight blend, you know, to this kind of roll here. So I'd actually use this softer consistency to highlight that bit. Oh, you nearly screwed it there. I'll have to let that dry. we go. Let's add a little bit more. A bit more water. Boop. Nice. Let's go again. Notice I'm doing the lines a little bit short now. Softer consistency. Faster, for those that understand what I mean by that. It's funny seeing the difference on camera to in the flesh. So my highlights are really light, almost bleached bone. I can see on the camera they're pretty yellow. Yeah, it's funny that our cameras change your perception of the world. Yeah, strangely, looking at the blue in the armour, they both look pretty accurate. Same with his hair, just the yellow. So yeah, the highlights on screen appear duller than the highlights that are in front of me here, which would then probably make this next stage appear a little bit pointless, because I'm going to glaze some of those highlights down because they are actually too light for me, especially in comparison to some of the earlier ones I've done. Which again, on camera you're not really going to be able to see it because yeah, apparently the camera has dulled everything down. But I'm just going to make this glaze pretty subtle, because, you know, like with cooking, you can always add more salt, you can't take it out, so it's always best to go more careful on a glaze than you would with other techniques. See that? Straightforward. So I just now go around the model doing all those bits. I actually highlight it, or shade, do all the shading, then do all the neatening up with Avlin, then, you know, I do each stage across the entire model. Now if I was doing a much higher standard paint job, I might go in and just do every individual bit one bit at a time, just make sure it is nailed, yeah, before moving on. So last little finishing touch is to go in with some of this stuff. So this is neat dry bark. I've got some black here as well. I went on black, and there's some real dark areas I need to go in, so right under his arse, yeah, 2 strokes there. And I actually do between the yellow and the red things, start to really define them. Apologies if there's a tremor to the camera, it's me leaning on the table and I've got a little tremor myself. There we go, I think I've sorted that for you. It's by being a little more gentle. There you go, so add a bit of black to that. Nice, and then let's go back in. Oh, I got a little wobble there. There you go. And last one. Rescued it. I'm just going to grab a bit of this. Whoops. Grab a bit of this and just tickle under there a little bit. I just fancy it being a bit softer. There we go. Might have got a bit too much right there. Off you come. There you go, lads. Yellow. Just for you guys. Just for you guys. So let me know if you've got any questions on what you just saw. Have a great night.